Hi, welcome to Eye Openers. I'm your host, Brittany, and each week I bring you insightful conversations with entrepreneurs that will help you make more money, become a strong leader, and build a business culture that you're proud of. Grab your coffee and let's dive in. Hello and welcome to Eye Openers. I am so glad that you guys are joining us today because without you, I would just kind of be here with Ethan and Stephanie talking to myself, which I don't mind. It's good practice. But when we have an audience here, it is so helpful to know that this is meaningful to you because our whole goal here is to create eye-opening moments for you in your life, in your leadership, and in your business. When we have eye-opening moments, whether it comes from caffeine or from the brilliant nuggets of wisdom that our guests drop here and share with us, your life changes for the better. So without further ado, let's work on creating some of those eye-opening moments for you today. Welcome to the show, Stephanie and Ethan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
And here we always talk about what we're drinking because if we can't create those like genius eye-opening moments, at least we have coffee. So I today decided, well, here's the truth. I just came back from like a long business trip and there was no creamer or milk alternative or any other thing that resembled that in my house. But I did have a fun turmeric adaptogenic mushroom, like little mix here that I added into my coffee. So it's a little gritty, but it's doing the trick. And I feel like it's, some extra bonus nutrition and anti-inflammatory stuff. So I have a fun kind of golden milk version of coffee today. What do you guys drink for some morning eye-opening moments?
I have my coffee. This is my third cup today. Usually I'm a 2-cup a day person. But I make my own coffee at home and I do use a little creamer or oat milk and a little sugar. So I'm one of those people, but it's okay.
It's okay. There is no shame in our coffee game here. I have had guests who have like all kinds of special concoctions all the way back to Diet Coke. And we talked about like how that is just as effective, if not more. So we welcome all kinds of coffee drinkers here. How about you?
I've got water because I've already had my coffee on the day. And the only thing I'll say is this at the end of last year, I was introduced to oat milk, which I think is just the bomb and totally changed everything for me personally. But sometimes my normal coffee drink, it's a little embarrassing telling the barista how complicated it is. I feel very hoity-toity and it's not the kind of style that I want to project, but that's what I like. So that's what I go with. So,
Hey, that's okay. Here we just own it. If that's what you like and that's your special secret sauce for the day, like more power to you. I think if you deliver it with some kindness when you order it, I think that just does the trick.
Yeah. He always does. Yes.
That's what we're about.
Awesome. So, well, let's give guests like a fair, introduction here so that they know why they should stay tuned, why they should listen to the fun nuggets of wisdom that you are going to drop on us today. So Ethan, you're the co-founder of Pro Assisting, which is a next generation remote fractional executive assistance firm for business owners and C-suite executives. You have a background in hospitality and an expert in the EA space. Ethan, you've held a variety of senior positions, including Director of Administrative Services and Senior EA to the President and CEO at Rochester Regional Health. That's awesome. So you guys really know your stuff when you're, running your EA firm. It's so important that you've been there yourself so you can understand what these experiences are like, right?
When you put it that way, it makes me feel like, wow.
Yeah.
He sounds impressive.
That's right. This is why we do this part, is for you guys. And Stephanie, so you guys are co-founders, right? So you are also the co-founder of Pro Assisting and you're former EA to J. Crew CEO. I hope you got some good clothes out of that. And the CEO to 2 multi-billion-dollar hedge funds. Wow. So this is like billions right here, like in an interview. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Before developing Pro Assisting, you proved yourself to be an expert in the field and a vital addition to the C-suite by fulfilling a variety of roles, including chief of staff, estate manager, and investment liaison. So Ethan and Stephanie, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. Are there any little additions you want to add to those bios that are pretty impressive? Additions, or let's talk about origin story. What happened the day that you said, we are going to create something special, something that really delivers the value through an executive assistant role, and that's going to be different from the way it's been done through your own experience?
You want me to take that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So actually, the origin of Pro Assisting started in 2009 as an educational and training program. And it wasn't until we moved out of New York City, Stephanie was locked at home taking care of the kids, that she got a call from a friend of ours who said, hey, I know this Fortune 100 consultant, travels the world, needs great support, doesn't need full-time, and doesn't care where the person is. Are you interested? And Stephanie and I looked at each other and we said, well, yeah. And then we said, how much should we charge? How much should Stephanie charge? And that actually started us down the road of really doing a deep dive on the remote fractional assistant support space.
Yes. And I will just add that it was the first time I had never, I was home with children. I had always been working. I cherished my time at home with the kids, but there was a piece of myself that I felt was missing. And I missed that part of my life and my brain. So it was kind of a great opportunity. Good timing.
That's awesome. I'm also a working mom. And so I love hearing about this. I love bringing this conversation out into the working world because there is so much value that moms can bring to the workspace. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I became a mom, I got so efficient. I got so good at juggling like 10 balls at a time and really getting stuff done for people in just a super, concise but high value add manner. And that's how that approach has also really benefited my business and my clients too. So I totally understand wanting to have that leg in the workforce, but also, honoring the roles you guys have created for your family. So I love chatting about that. So let's fast forward 2023. So you figured out how to price that, I'm assuming, and it just really unfolded from there. You saw the market opportunity, right? And then probably with COVID too, like more people being remote, more people realizing, oh, it doesn't matter. I don't have to have my EA like right next to me. There's so much that can be done from anywhere. So what does it look like today?
I guess we saw a gap in the market between what virtual assistants was doing and where the start of a full-time assistant took over. So that's where we positioned our business. We came to that realization fairly quickly. And that was based on the fact that we had both done this and led teams of assistants for 20 years each. And it was different compared to someone, say, a project manager who starts a virtual assistant company and comes at it from a different direction. And a lot of that stuff in those companies just didn't align with what we knew in our bones to be an avenue to great support. And so
can you articulate that a little further for the audience, like the difference between someone who comes at it more from a project manager perspective versus a true executive assistant? Because your audience here are potential customers, and I think that they would want to understand like how those two things are different and why.
I'm sure Stephanie can add to it, but I would just say that we were seeing in the virtual assistant space companies partnering virtual assistants with 8, 10, 12 clients a month. And we were seeing them compensated at $18, $20, $22 an hour, where the company was charging $45, $50 an hour. And what that created was an environment where they weren't getting true executive assistants who have that hard experience. Plus, there was inconsistency in the compensation towards the executive assistants because it was based on hours and it fluctuated greatly. And we wanted to serve our community, which are career executive assistants who want an opportunity to tap into working for clients as opposed to bosses. And we limit the number of clients that our assistants have to 3. And we charge a flat retainer rate that is consistent month in and month out and really places the value on legacy knowledge around the client and their business that builds up over time and a true partnership.
That makes so much sense. I mean, how well could somebody truly assist somebody when they have 10 to 12 clients? I just know like all the information management that has to happen just with myself and my assistant. I can't even imagine times 10, times 12. That's really wild.
You have an assistant?
I do. I've had one for years.
Oh, we just lost a client right there.
No. I have a whole little Rolodex back here that I am ready to work on with you guys. But I want to really reinforce like that you truly do get what you pay for in this space. And I have a brilliant thought partner is how I think of her. I consult with her. Like you see the back end, you see what's happening here. And I give her space, like at the decision making table. Like, help me think, how can we do this better? Like, you have a different perspective than I do, and she works with other clients, which is actually a benefit back to me to see how other people do things. And so, I value her immensely, and she's a true value add to my business. And like I said, I think a thought partner captures it best. She helps me really problem solve and create efficiencies. And when you are a small business owner, those things just pay dividends, if you can have somebody help you out in that way. But you get what you pay for. So this different model that you guys have, I think it really pulls out a bigger commitment on both ends, right? Like, they get to be more committed to the business owner or the CEO because of the way that you've structured their time, and the company or executive that's hiring this individual is more committed through price. And that, I work with humans for a living. I study human behavior in the workplace. You have to be able to pull out a commitment that's meaningful from both parties in order to create a working environment that really does deliver on that value. So I love that you draw out commitment in the contracting phase. It's super important. So what are you guys looking at? Like, there's been a huge shift in the way that we work in the last 3 years, which you've been deeply immersed in. What do you guys see coming forward? There's so much information, like with the hashtag future of work. What do you guys see?
Well, personally, I see the hybrid model of work seems to be where so many people are going. And one thing I think Ethan, I don't know if he touched on it, but when we first started Pro Assisting, he would be on the phone with potential clients, and they would say, "Well, I worked with an assistant, and she sat outside my door, and I could just yell out my door and ask a question, or she needed to take notes at a meeting." And all of a sudden, it just didn't make sense to some people. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, enter the pandemic, unfortunately, and those sales calls turned into, I actually really get this, because my staff are all working from home, and we're finding ways to get things done just as efficiently. So, that's one thing. And then I would say also, the elephant in the room is AI, and everyone is talking about AI. And it's interesting because I think, we're already leveraging that in our everyday lives. Most people, you send a text to a friend and about meeting for coffee, and all of a sudden Siri pops up and says, "Oh, do you want me to add this to your calendar?" without a prompt from you. So that's amazing. I love that efficiency. Mm-hmm. But there's something to be said about the human touch, the hospitality, certain ththings that Siri and Alexa and AI are not going to be able to do. And, pro assisting our assistants, we pride ourselves on that relationship, as you spoke of before, having that true partnership. And it's not all about just the hard assisting, entering calendar and making appointments. It is a lot of speaking on the phone with board members or, colleagues, and being able to represent that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Regarding our AI, our thesis is that a lot of high net worth individuals, business owners, C-suite executives, they want to know that their team, including their executive assistant, is leveraging the technology on their behalf, but also that we are still in a space where emotional intelligence and high touch hospitality has to be delivered by a human. And so it's about us as humans in a support capacity, leveraging the technology on our clients' behalf. And so they know they're getting the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm. Completely. I have been working in a hybrid fashion for years, like way before the pandemic, and then obviously went fully remote during the pandemic. And I just came back from like about a 2-week US tour with my clients, and it was so amazing. I can't tell you how many of them said, "Oh, it's just so nice to meet you in person. It's so nice to like feel your energy in person." I had such a better understanding of some things that were going on in their business, the culture. That changed everything. And then I ran an offsite a few days ago where the group said, "Gosh, like this wouldn't have even been possible if we weren't all sitting in this room together to make this happen." So when I learned this from a mentor of mine, when everybody else goes high tech, you go high touch. And that's Rich Litvin. And I keep coming back to that again and again, because am I being sold every day on models to like scale my business to this and that overnight and market to these masses? No, like there's a lot of us who are super interested in providing a very high touch experience, very concierge, and there is a full blown market for that. And for you guys, I would argue that it's beyond just high net worth, high, like C-suite level executives. Like a lot of the audience here are small business owners. I'm a small business owner. I even had a bit of imposter syndrome. Maybe you guys could speak to this. When I first thought about hiring an assistant, I had a friend of mine who she's runs a similar type kind of consultancy business. And she was like, "Gosh, you're doing way too much admin work. Like it's pulling you down. Think about what would happen if you freed up, just even 4 hours a week of space for yourself." I was like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds like a dream." But I remember thinking, who am I? Like, I'm not that important, or I'm not making 7 figures. Like, why do I need an assistant? This is like a little bit weird. And I had to like kind of overcome that mindset, that mental block where I thought almost I wasn't deserving of it. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure you run into this.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about imposter syndrome all the time. It's funny that you bring it up. It's like, wait a minute, he'll be like, "Well, what does the CEO think?" I'm like, "Oh, that's right. I am the CEO of this business." And when you're working in it day in and day out, I take the business seriously, but I don't take myself that seriously.
It's frankly a simple math equation. If you take your yearly revenue and minus your expenses and then divide that number by 2,000, you'll come up with your hourly rate. And if you take that and multiply it by 4 and you say, well, I could get an assistant support, I could get fractional assistant support for half that amount. It's actually an ROI indicator of, yeah, I need to focus on this. And we do sit at the higher end of the market, but for fractional remote support, but there are so many options out there, and it can be so tailored specific. We use our service to where we have an assistant who's actually a second assistant to an assistant at a company because that first assistant was just overwhelmed and needed backup support. And so that's an interesting way to leverage the support.
Totally.
And there's just so many options, and we're not about saying, hey, you have to use pro assisting. We're more about what is right for you in this season or time, and how specific can we get? And then when you're ready for us, you'll come back, or you'll know someone who's ready for us, and then you'll tell them about us. It's not about making the sale. It's about making the right fit and creating long-term relationships, because frankly, our agreements are month to month, and an assistant can leave at any time and a client can leave at any time. And that's where you mentioned it earlier, having that balance and that relationship where it's codependent and there has to be value going both ways. And if it's not, it doesn't work, and that's fine. But that's how it works for us.
I think that assistant can sometimes be a misnomer. I think that for all those small business owners out there, it is like a partnership. And think about yourself. Sometimes it's lonely running your own gig, and it would be nice to have that person to bounce off ideas and an advisor. And it's, we like to think of ourselves as partners in your business.
That's awesome. I love to hear you guys say all of that. I love the month-to-month freedom, because it's almost like that Uber model or Airbnb where there's cross-evaluation. Like, you know what? If you aren't treating your assistant well, they can leave. And vice versa. Like if this match isn't right for you, you can leave. And that drives both parties to really show up fully and try to make it successful, because everybody wins. And honestly, like I know so many business owners who would benefit so much with a $3,000 investment. Like this is not just high. And there are so many businesses out there that could truly benefit from this. And for me, I know I was thinking, I don't have that much to delegate. Like this has to be me. I have to do this in my business and whatnot. And so we just started slow, and we started with like a certain amount of time, and then we got that system built out. And then over time, I trusted her more and more. I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to check your work. Don't send me the draft. Like just do it. And I will tell you if it's, drastically wrong. And then after we did some of that stuff, then I felt better about customer direct communications. And then we did draft emails first. And then after I had so much confidence, right? Like, it just, the list goes on. And I've increased her hours over the years. And I can't wait till she's full time, because it is so immensely helpful for me. But so for those of you who are thinking, I have no idea what I would even do with an assistant, you trust me, you will find ways to fill their time, because once you get a taste of it, you can't even believe you waited this long.
Well, you're hitting the nail on the head in that most of the clients that come to us are type A personalities who are micromanagers. And the goal is to slowly, through trust, build up that sense that I can delegate, and then they become master delegators. And I just read this story about Bezos, and I've heard it before, but that there are two kinds of decisions. There's the one-way door decision, and then there's the two-way door decision. And most of the decisions that an assistant deals with are two-way doors, meaning you can go on the other side and look around, and you can go back through the door. And it's not much of a difference to change. And in your example, if there was a mistake on a note going out or something, it would be acknowledged. It would be, a system would be put in place to fix it, and you'd move on. The one-way door decisions are the ones that take time and need to be thought through and very careful, because once you step through that door, there's no going back. So you can think of your assistant as really handling a lot of those two-way door decisions on your behalf. And they will build that profile of you. And that goes back to the legacy knowledge that builds up inside of them. So they really know what you want, how you want it done, and can keep so many questions off of your plate as you build that relationship.
So true. That's awesome. I love that you guys think of it that way. What can you guys give us an example of a a fun assistant story, either like a customer who wasn't sure and then ended up having great success, or like a funny story about something an EA had to deal with. It's, it helps us imagine what's possible.
I got some crazy.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
Okay, drop a crazy one on us.
No, go ahead. Drop a crazy.
So, I was personal assisting Nastasia Kinski on the film Town and Country when she was in New York. So I had to pick her up in the limo from the airport, and I was basically by her side for 3 weeks. And on set, Warren Beatty was in every scene that she was in, and she always wanted me there on set. She wanted in between takes. She would call me over. She always wanted me, like, if she needed anything, checking on calls or whatnot, or getting food or drink or whatever. It was a personal assistant role. And Warren did not pay me the time of day for 4 days. Like, just didn't even look at me. I would be standing as close to Stephanie as to me. And she's talking to me, and Warren would just nothing. And then finally, on that 5th day, he was sitting down, and I was in the vicinity, and it was, they were turning the set around, meaning they're changing all the lights and whatnot. And he said, "Hey, Ethan, can you get me a Diet Coke, please?" And I said, "Sure." I went over to craft service. I got him a Diet Coke, and that kind of broke the ice. And I guess my takeaway from that, and then the remaining time, I think it was 6 or 8 days on set beyond that, the interactions between us grew. He asked me to get him Diet Cokes pretty much every day. I was interacting with his assistant more. And then on the final day, Nastasia has all these bouquets of flowers in her trailer. I'm 23 years old, by the way. And I have to carry 2 huge bouquets of flowers, and we're 30 blocks from her hotel. And she wanted them delivered to her hotel. So I'm standing outside the limo. And Nastasia and Warren are sitting there, and she looks at me and she says, "Okay, go take a cab uptown, and I'll meet you at the hotel." And Warren looks at her and then looks at me and sees me standing there with these huge flowers. And he says, "No." He's like, "Ethan, get in the limo." And I spent the last 20 minutes that I haven't ever seen Warren Beatty in person, sitting in the back of a limo next to him. And he just quizzed me about where I was from, what I was doing in New York, and it got more personal. And I think, to circle it all around, it just goes back to the fact that he saw my work ethic and my attention to detail and my pace that I was with, and attentiveness with Nastasia, and that won him over because he saw consistency and whatnot. And that's what you want to see. And it's having that servant's heart and that sense of hospitality is it's not for everyone, and it's not the right role for everyone. But when you find it, hold on to it.
That's awesome.
I would say project managing the mansion. I mean, as a side personal.
Yeah. My my former boss at one of the hedge funds I worked with, he basically put me in charge of overseeing a build on the Connecticut coast, home worth $50 million. And
my gosh,
there's like 12 people in the room, architects and landscape architects and the general contractor. And he's like, "Nope, Stephanie is in charge. She's going to triage all of your messages. She's going to quarterback and triage everything that you need to get to me. And if you hear something from her, it's coming from me. She is representing me." And, that just goes to show that the trust that we had built together. So,
he was really good at delegating.
He was excellent at delegating. He was excellent at delegating. You're right.
That's awesome. That's great. I love these stories. Thank you guys for being willing to share. So if if members of the audience have listened to this, they were on the fence, they thought about it, and go, "Gosh, I would really love to have a conversation about getting an assistant," what's the best way for people to reach you?
Our website, proassisting.com. Both Stephanie and I are active on LinkedIn as well.
Cool.
And there is a free consultation link on Pro Assisting. I'm happy to talk to anyone. It's not about working with Pro Assisting. It's about finding you the right support for your needs for long-term success. And whether that includes us or not is kind of irrelevant. And we do have a very good overview and understanding of all the options that you may not see. So always welcome those conversations.
Love it. Well, I will make sure that no matter which platform you're hearing this on, that this information's in the show notes below, guys. So just look for the links there. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us, share this wisdom with the audience. And I know for me, it's created some eye-opening moments of thinking about how I might be able to better leverage my assistant and really just, lean into this beautiful service more. So thanks again for being here, guys. And for you audience members, if you got something valuable from this episode, please share it. Share it on social media, share it with your friends, or even just reply to if you got this via email and let us know what was most valuable to you, because that's the information we use to shape future content. I hope you guys have a very eye-opening, valuable, and productive day in your business. And until next time, see you then. Thanks for joining us this week on Eye Openers. Make sure to visit brittnydrose.com/podcast for this week's show notes. And if you found value in today's episode, I would so appreciate you giving us a rating on Apple Podcasts or share it with a friend. Also, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. This all helps to support the show.